Hi everyone! I have a special video today. Yay! Okay, I'm super excited because I've never done this before. Today I am going to interview the Cristin Terrill. She is the author of All Our Yesterdays. Let me show you the book. Here we go. This is the arc. This book, alright, I've already read a little bit into it. And it has time travel. And you know, guys, that I am super excited about time travel. I love time travel. Okay, guys, Cristin has been kind enough to join me for an interview here on my channel. Yay! Okay, so you can find her on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter. And she also has a website. I will put the links below. And guys, hey, yay. Okay, alright, let's get started. I'm just terribly excited. Okay. Hi Cristin, thanks so much for joining me on my channel today and letting me interview you.
Hi Casey, thanks so much for having me.
Today we are going to talk about your debut novel. It's All Our Yesterdays. Again, I'll show the book here. Okay, let's kick off the interview by you telling us a little bit about your book in your own words.
All Our Yesterdays is the story of a girl who has to travel back in time 4 years to kill someone that she once loved before that person destroys the world.
What inspired you to write All Our Yesterdays?
The inspiration for the story came from this one night when I couldn't sleep, and I got up and started watching television about 3 o'clock in the morning, and Terminator was on cable. And I was watching it and thinking about how the story would be different if the killer robot from the future was actually the good guy instead of the bad guy. And then because I read and write YA, I was thinking about what it would be like if that killer robot was actually a teenage girl.
Now understand, this is your debut novel, and it's going to be released September 3rd, this fall. Is it available for pre-order?
Sure, it's available for pre-order in all the regular places, and there's more information about that on my website.
Now I'm curious about your publishing journey. A lot of my viewers are also avid readers, and we love to know more about the author and their journey into publication. After you secured an agent for representation for your book, when your agent called you and said, Disney Hyperion wants to publish your book, where were you at and what did you do? Did you totally squeal and do the happy dance, or did you wait until you got off the phone, or I don't know how you got the news? Was it an email or a phone call? Please tell us about that.
I had actually just been to my friend Jessica Spotswood book event, and a whole bunch of us went out to get dinner afterwards, and there were probably about 15 of my closest writer friends there, and that's when I got the call from my agent. And because we'd just gone out with All Our Yesterdays a couple days before, I knew it was probably something pretty important. So I stepped out to take the call, and my agent told me that we had an offer from from someone else, and that she was expecting more offers in the morning because the book eventually did go to auction. And she said, this is great news, but you can't tell anyone. So I had to go back into dinner with all my writing friends and pretend as though nothing had happened, which made for an interesting meal. But my two best friends who were there were not at all fooled, and they cornered me in the parking lot after everyone else had gone and made me tell them what had happened. And I think I was just basically in shock, so I was sort of unnaturally calm, but they freaked out and were, jumping up and down and laughing and screaming, and it was a pretty great night.
The cover of the book looks amazing. Did you have any say-so in the design?
Generally, authors don't really get much say in their cover, but Disney Hyperion was really great about checking in with me every step of the way and asking me for my opinion and my feedback, which I really appreciated. The cover was a bit of an odyssey for us. I think we worked on it for about 9 months, and we probably went through, 20 completely different designs. And that's one reason why the cover on the arc is so entirely different from the final cover. But I really like where we landed. It was not all what I was expecting, but I've really come to love it, and I'm glad that you do too.
Now on your website, I've read that you've done some appearances already in New York City and Chicago. How nervous were you when you went to these places, and how did you handle all the attention?
I think I would have been a lot more nervous had it felt at all real to me, but it really didn't. Both were pretty surreal experiences, and I just sort of felt like I was outside of my body watching myself do these things. So basically my recipe for dealing with the attention is just total and complete denial.
On Goodreads, your book has already gotten some great reviews, I assume from the advanced reader's copy. What does your family think about your book?
My family's great. They've been very supportive. Most of them have read the book at this point and, were supportive enough to at least tell me they loved it, even if they didn't, which is all you can really ask for. My 13-year-old sister carries the book around in her backpack to school and stuff, which I think is adorable. And my mom's always sending me reviews, even though I've told her I'm trying not to read them. So yeah, they're hugely supportive.
I read something interesting about the title of your book. Can you please tell our viewers how your title came to be and how the decision was made for that title?
Sure. All Our Yesterdays was originally just a placeholder title. I needed a title for the book for when it went out on submission, and I was having trouble thinking of something, so when I'm in that position, I usually just steal something, and if you're going to steal, you should steal from the best, so I stole from Shakespeare. I have a master's degree in Shakespeare, so that's obviously something that's pretty close to my heart, and so I thought about all the speeches in Shakespeare's plays that were about time, and the one that jumped out at me was this speech from the last act of Macbeth, which is now the inscription of the book. And All Our Yesterdays is a phrase from that speech. And so that was the title. I thought it was just going to be temporary, and because most editors, once you sell a book, do eventually make you change the title, and I was fully expecting that, but everyone fell in love with All Our Yesterdays, and I came around to it too, and now I can't imagine it being anything different.
During the editing process, were there any scenes that were removed, or you had to rewrite, or you had to reiterate on a few things? And in your opinion, has the book changed dramatically from when you first submitted it? I'm just curious about your thoughts on the editing process.
The book hasn't changed dramatically from the one I submitted to the one that's going to be published. We did add to some things, some things we went deeper into, and it's much more polished, obviously. But the big differences happened between my first draft and the draft that we eventually submitted in revisions with my agent. The biggest change is that I originally wrote it in third person past tense, and now it's in first person present tense. So I had to literally retype every single word of the novel because most of them had to be changed. And another big difference is, if you've read the book, you'll know that Em and Finn experience these things called flashes that are really pretty central to the storytelling and to the plot. And originally the book did not contain those at all, which is something I had actually forgotten about until recently because they're so integral to the plot that I can't really imagine the story without them, but those were actually a later addition.
Now I understand that All Our Yesterdays is the first book of a duology, a two-part series. Are you currently writing the second book, and when is the anticipated release date?
I am currently working on the second book. It's been quite the labor of love so far. It's been a pretty difficult book to write, but hopefully we're getting there. So assuming that I finish it on time, which fingers crossed, it should be published about a year out from the first book, so fall 2014.
Now I'm curious, when you write, do you go to the library, or do you have a favorite place to write, like at a desk in your home? Or do you cop a squat on the floor and in front of the television?
I actually can't write at home at all. I'm too easily distracted. I will end up, doing laundry or deep cleaning a closet, anything to avoid working. So I have two places I go. One is a Starbucks near me that has a nice atmosphere for writing, and my more frequent destination is my local library. It has a great study room with these weird little individual cells, which I basically just go into one of those and lock myself in, and no distractions, and that's how I get my work done.
Do you prefer to write in the morning or in the late evening or middle of the day? Which brings me to my next question. Are you a part-time or full-time writer, and do you have a job?
I am basically a full-time writer. I do teach part-time for a group called Writopia Lab here in DC. I do creative writing workshops for kids and teens, but for the most part, I'm a full-time writer. And I like to write pretty early in the day. Once the sun starts going down, my brain kind of shuts down along with it. So I usually get up, spend an hour or two, eating and checking my email or whatnot, and then I head to my little library cell.
And also on your website, and I know I've said this before, it's an amazing website, by the way. You've lived in several places. You've lived in London, Austin, Boston, and now Washington, D.C. Out of all these places, which is your favorite place? Which was your favorite place to live?
My favorite place to live was definitely London. I was planning to stay there indefinitely, but it just didn't work out with visas and things, and I couldn't bribe any of my friends into marrying me so I could stay. So I came back to the United States, and now I'm in DC, which I love. So yeah, it worked out.
Now I'm just curious, in England, did you ever meet the Queen?
I did not ever meet the Queen, but I did see Prince Charles once. He was in his car and I was on the sidewalk and he drove past me. So that's my big claim to fame with the British royalty.
I've been to England a few times. What was your funniest experience while you were there?
My funniest experience actually happened when I was living in Stratford-upon-Avon. I was doing my master's there, and Stratford is a really weird little town to live in because on the whole, it's just this very small, very, quiet kind of farming community that's full of mostly senior citizens, but then it's also this huge Shakespeare tourist destination, and the Royal Shakespeare Company is right there, and so you can be at the one grocery store in town and Ian McKellen is picking out bread in the aisle next to you, and it's just very bizarre. So one night my friend and I had gone to the movies to see a movie called Notes on a Scandal, which stars Judi Dench, and she plays a really dark, creepy character in it. And we were walking home and I was talking about how much Judi Dench creeps me out now, and how I'd never be able to look at her the same way again, and how, I would freak out if I ever found myself in a dark alley with her. And we turned the corner, and literally there was Judi Dench right there staring at me. And she'd clearly heard everything we said, and we both just kind of freaked out and ran away.
And, since you live in Washington, D.C., have you ever met the President of the United States?
No, I've never met the President. I have sat in traffic caused by the motorcade a couple times, but that's the closest I've ever gotten.
Okay, and I want to ask some other curious questions, because, I'm just that type of person. Okay, do you prefer coffee or tea, or something else?
Yeah, I don't really like either. I tried to like tea the whole time I was living in England, and I just couldn't come around to it. And then I gave up caffeine a couple years ago, so now all I really drink is water, which is boring.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate, duh.
Dog or cat?
Both. I do not get the war between dog people and cat people. I'm neither, I am both. I grew up with both dogs and cats. I do currently just have 2 cats, one of which has been scratching at my office door this whole time. You probably heard him. So yeah, neither, both.
Cristin, I want to thank you so much for coming on my channel and allowing me to interview you. Is there anything more you'd like to add about yourself or your book to our viewers before we close?
Sure. One of the really fun things I think that we have done for the book is we created a web series that serves as a prequel to the novel. There are 4 episodes, and they introduce you a little bit to the main characters and the world and tell a story that takes place right before the novel begins. So if you want to check those out, they're on my website. I think they're really fun. We had a lot of fun doing them. And I just want to say, thanks for having me, and I hope you check out the book, and I hope you enjoy it.
Alright guys, just remember, All Our Yesterdays is going to be released September 3rd. It's going to be put out by Disney Hyperion. From what I've read, I think it's just going to be an amazing book, and I cannot wait to finish it. Time travel, who doesn't love time travel? Okay, guys, this concludes my interview with Cristin, and again, the links are below. You can find her basically everywhere in social media, and check out her website. It's pretty amazing. I'll put the link to Amazon below. for the book. Check out the cover, or maybe I can just pop it up here for you. There you go. Isn't it amazing? It's awesome. I love the clock. And yay. Okay, if you guys would like to make a comment or two or ask a few questions, I'm sure Cristin wouldn't mind coming back and replying to your questions. Just leave them below or tweet her. Alright guys, you have a great week. We'll talk to you later.